You'll sleep in the garage, just like that. Not a question, not an apology attached to it. The way you'd say, can you grab the mail or put that away? The particular tone of something so reasonable in the mind of the person saying it that it hasn't occurred to them it might require justification. My mother was already moving on before she finished the sentence. Back to the counter, back to the cutting board, the efficient pivot of a woman who has made a decision and filed it. My father folded his newspaper. Set it down. You're 24, Madison. You contribute nothing. We're not running a charity. And then Alyssa floated in. Silk robe, fresh mimosa, already held at the stem the way she holds things she wants people to notice. Ryan behind her husband of 14 months, a man whose primary distinguishing feature is the particular smile of someone who has married into a dynamic he finds entertaining. She looked at me, the small patient sigh of an older sister managing something unfortunate. Don't be dramatic, Maddie, she said. It's just a little dust. Ryan laughed, actual laughter, the genuine kind, which made it worse somehow. I looked at my family, these 4 people in their warm kitchen, already in motion, already past this, the conversation essentially over in their minds. I felt something go very quiet inside me. Of course, I said, a little dust. I went to my room and started packing my overnight bag. They had no idea what was in that bedroom. They had no idea what the 18 months had built. They assumed, I could see it in every glance, every carefully patient tone, that I was rotting in there, sulking, wasting the best years of a life that had stalled out when my internship collapsed. I was not rotting, but they would find that out tomorrow. I need to tell you about the internship before I tell you about the software, because one produced the other. 2 years ago, I was a software engineering intern at a mid-sized property management company called Vertex Residential. I was there for the structural data team, the unit that dealt with building diagnostics, maintenance patterns, the intersection of sensors and predictive analysis that most property tech companies were gesturing at without fully committing to. I was 22, I was good at my job, and I had identified what I believed was a significant gap in how the industry handled energy monitoring and structural fault prediction in large residential buildings. I wrote a memo about it, 14 pages. I formatted it carefully, sourced everything, ran the preliminary math. My supervisor, a man named Derek, who had been in property tech for 11 years and had the tired certainty of someone who stopped having new ideas around year 6, read the first 3 pages and said, "This is interesting, but it's not where we're focused right now." 3 weeks later, the internship ended. Budget cuts, standard, nothing personal. I went home. I sat in my childhood bedroom with my laptop and my 14-page memo and 6 months of anger, and I started building. The system, I called it the internal working name Sentry, which I later kept because it was accurate, was a predictive monitoring platform for large residential buildings. It integrated with existing sensor networks, processed building data in real time, identified energy inefficiencies and structural anomalies before they became failures, and generated automated intervention recommendations. The kind of software that saves $400,000 a year in a mid-size apartment complex and never once gets written up in a trade publication because the savings show up as things that didn't happen, and no one writes headlines about prevented disasters. I worked on it for 18 months, in my bedroom, at my desk, and sometimes on the floor when I needed to think differently. I ate when I remembered to eat. I slept in the chair more than I should have. I applied for 3 grants, 1 rejected, 2 pending. I entered 2 competitions, 1 honorable mention, 1 nothing. I pitched to 4 venture capital firms in month 14. The first meeting, a partner who listened for 8 minutes and then said, "Very niche, very unsexy, pass." The second, 2 junior associates who seemed engaged until they understood there was no consumer-facing app, at which point their interest evaporated with visible speed. The third, a man who actually said out loud to my face, "Cute idea, sweetheart, totally unscalable." The fourth, a phone call that went to voicemail and was not returned. I drove home after the 4th meeting and sat in the driveway for 11 minutes. Then I went inside and kept building. The innovation showcase was in month 17. It was not a prestigious event. It was the kind of showcase that happens in a hotel conference space with folding tables and name badges and the particular energy of people who are hoping to be seen by someone important and are mostly being seen by each other. I had registered 3 weeks prior with the specific ambition of someone who has run out of better options and has decided that showing up to imperfect opportunities is better than waiting for perfect ones. My laptop had a crack in the hinge that I had fixed with a piece of electrical tape. I had my prototype running, my deck printed, and a demonstration environment I had built specifically to showcase the system's prediction accuracy using real anonymized data from a building my friend's cousin managed in exchange for a modest software license fee. I was set up at table 11 when I noticed the man in the back row. He was not participating in the way attendees participate, not moving between tables, not carrying a badge, not performing the friendly engagement of someone working a room. He was sitting in a folding chair against the back wall with his arms crossed and his eyes moving across the space in the unhurried way of someone who has already filtered out most of what he sees and is looking for whatever is left. Arthur Carter. I knew who he was. You don't spend 18 months in the property tech space without knowing who Arthur Carter is. Carter Holdings, commercial and residential real estate across 6 major markets, 47 properties under management, a reputation for moving into infrastructure technology before other developers understood why it mattered. He came to my table in the last 20 minutes. He looked at the prototype prototype running on my taped laptop without touching it. Walk me through the prediction algorithm, he said. I walked him through it. He asked specific technical questions, not the questions of someone performing engagement, but the questions of someone who understands enough to know which questions reveal the most. Then he asked one more. Why hasn't anyone dominated this market yet? I thought about Derek and his 14 pages. About cute idea, sweetheart. About the fourth VC's unreturned voicemail. Because it isn't sexy, I said. It saves millions quietly in the dark. Investors want fireworks. This is just a very heavy, very profitable wrench. He didn't smile, but he didn't look away. 3 weeks later, my attorney, a woman named Priya Sharma, 9 years in technology acquisition and IP law, who I had found through the grant application process and retained on a contingency basis, sent me a document that required my signature. I read every page before I signed it. Then I called Priya. Walk me through the valuation one more time, I said. She walked me through it. I signed. I did not tell anyone. Not my former colleagues. Not my friend whose cousin's building had provided the demonstration data. Not the people who had been kind to me during the 18 months. The ones who deserved to hear good news first. I needed one night with it alone. The confirmation. The weight of it. The specific private experience of understanding that the thing you built in a bedroom on a taped laptop with a cracked hinge is now a different category of thing. My mother knocked on my bedroom door that evening. Alyssa and Ryan are coming this weekend, she said through the door. We need the room. Okay, I said. You'll be in the garage. I sat at my desk for a moment. Okay, I said again. I heard her walk away. I looked at the acquisition agreement on my laptop screen, at the numbers in the consideration column, at my signature at the bottom of the page. I closed the laptop. I started packing my overnight bag. Alyssa arrived with Ryan on Friday evening. I watched them from the garage doorway. The greeting, the effortless absorption of two people who belong into the warm interior of the house. My mother taking Alyssa's coat with both hands. My father shaking Ryan's hand with the particular grip and shoulder clap of a man welcoming someone he genuinely respects. Then the garage door closed. The garage is not unlivable. I want to be precise about this. It is not a horror. It is a cold and dusty space with a concrete floor and a thin foam mat my mother had put down with the gesture of someone who wanted it, noted that she had made an effort. There was a folding table, a lamp, a space heater with a temperamental low setting. I lay on the mat and looked at the ceiling. Through it, I could hear Alyssa's laughter, the specific ease of it, unguarded, genuine, the laugh of a person who is entirely comfortable in the space she occupies. I had always envied her that ease. I did not envy her tonight. My phone vibrated against the concrete floor, a notification from my bank, then a message from Carter's office through the acquisition platform we'd used for the signing. Transfer complete. Escort will arrive at 0900. Welcome to the firm, Ms. Brooks. In the dark, I smiled. Not a big smile, a private one, the kind you keep in the dark because it belongs there. I did not change clothes in the morning. I brushed the concrete dust off my jeans. I put on my wool coat, the one I had bought 2 years ago from a consignment shop, the one my mother had once looked at and said, "It's a little tragically ambitious for someone who isn't quite there yet, don't you think?" And I sat on the edge of the foam mat with my overnight bag and my work bag, and I waited. At 8:57, I opened the garage door. The morning was cold and clear. The cul-de-sac was quiet. A dog being walked 2 houses down. Leaves. At exactly 9, the garage door shook. Not a knock, a presence. The deep, unmistakable sound of a serious engine arriving. A V8, probably. The specific authority of a vehicle that has never been designed to go unnoticed. A black SUV came around the corner of the cul-de-sac and parked in our driveway. The paint was so polished it looked wet in the morning light. Not clean, polished, in the way of something that is maintained rather than washed. A man stepped out from the driver's side, large, precise, wearing a charcoal suit that fit correctly, carrying a tablet. He walked to where I was standing. "Ms. Madison Brooks?" "Yes. Good morning. I'm Carl. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Carter to facilitate your relocation. He asks that you take your time and let us handle anything that needs handling." I said, "I'm ready now." The front door swung open. "I want to tell you about the specific sequence of their appearances, because it happened in an order that I have thought about many times. Alyssa first. She had come to the door, I think, out of the idle curiosity of someone who heard an unfamiliar engine sound and looked up from her coffee. She stepped onto the porch in her silk robe with her morning mimosa. Already, at 9 a.m., already. And she saw the SUV, and she saw Carl in the charcoal suit, and she saw me standing beside my overnight bag with the concrete dust on my jeans and the tragically ambitious coat, and she stopped. The mimosa stayed at its stem. Ryan appeared behind her, sleep still in his face. The smirk he had been wearing since Friday evening, the comfortable smirk of a man who has found his place in a family hierarchy and wears it, dissolved. He looked at Carl. He looked at the SUV. He looked at me. The smirk did not come back. My mother came next, through them, with a dish towel still in her hands from whatever she had been doing in the kitchen. She came to the edge of the porch and she looked at the driveway with the confused urgency of someone who has encountered something that doesn't yet fit her categories. "Madison," she said. "What on earth?" She stopped. My father last, flushed, moving fast, the specific energy of a man who has heard something unfamiliar in his driveway and is arriving to establish authority over the situation. "Who the hell is in my driveway?" Carl turned toward the porch, unhurried. The specific calm of a man who has facilitated enough of these moments to have nothing to prove to anyone standing on a porch in a bathrobe. "Good morning. I'm Carl, representing Mr. Arthur Carter's office. I'm here to escort Ms. Brooks to her new primary residence. She'll be occupied occupying the executive penthouse effective immediately. We appreciate your patience with the early hour. Silence. Alyssa's jaw moved before her voice did. Carter, she said. As in Carter Holdings? Precisely, Carl said, returning his attention to his tablet. My mother came down the porch steps. Her hands were shaking, the dish towel turning in them the way she turns things when she's been caught by surprise and is managing it physically. Madison, is this a job? Did Carter hire you as, good morning, Mom? I kept my voice low and even. I made them lean in slightly to hear me. Sorry about the exhaust noise. I tried to schedule it so it wouldn't interrupt Ryan's breakfast. My father's face had gone the color of old paper. You took a secretary job at Carter Holdings? A personal assistant position? You should have told us. We could have partnership, I said. He stopped. They acquired my software company yesterday, I said. I'm the incoming head of their sustainable infrastructure division. The acquisition agreement was signed Thursday afternoon. I looked at him steadily. I signed it from the garage. Alyssa made a sound, not a word. A high, fractured sound, the specific register of someone whose understanding of a situation has just changed so completely that the body responds before the mind catches up. She looked at me with the expression she has always used for things she does not know how to categorize. That's, people work for decades to get a meeting in that building, she said. That's not how it works. You'd need connections, you'd need credentials, people wait decades for permission, I said. I built the door myself. Carl had moved with the professional efficiency of a man who understands that the best thing he can do in this kind of moment is keep the logistics moving to the back of the SUV. He lifted the trunk with one hand and picked up my overnight bag, worn, battered, the canvas rubbed at the corners, and placed it in the pristine interior with the same care he would have given a much better bag. He treated it like it was already worth treating that way. My mother came down the last porch step, onto the driveway, getting closer as though proximity would help her understand. You slept on the floor last night. I did, I agreed. Cold concrete is excellent for sharpening priorities. Why didn't you say anything? Why didn't you tell us any of this was happening? Her voice had a quality I had not heard in it before. Not anger, not the managing disappointment register she usually deployed with me, something more unsteady. What would you have done differently? I said. She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. My father, from the porch. His voice had lost its authority, the specific flatness of a man who is trying to locate his register and finding it unavailable. Madison, why didn't you tell us? I turned to face him. He was still holding the folded newspaper from this morning, which he had apparently carried to the door without noticing. He looked older, standing there, not in a pitying way, just accurately. A man holding a newspaper on his porch at 9 in the morning, looking at his daughter in a driveway that had become unfamiliar. You never asked, I said. 3 words. I had not planned them. They arrived accurate and complete, and I let them stand. Carl opened the rear door of the SUV. I picked up my work bag. I walked to the car. I slid into the cream leather interior, warm from the climate control, clean, the specific smell of a car that is taken care of, and the door closed with a sound that I have thought about many times since. Not a slam, a seal, a clean, vacuum-tight closure, the sound of one chapter ending and having the grace to end properly. As Carl pulled out of the cul-de-sac, I turned to look through the tinted rear window. 4 people in the driveway. My parents, Alyssa, Ryan, all of them still in their bathrobes, standing in the space where I used to be. The morning light on the cul-de-sac. The dog walker 2 houses down had stopped to watch probably. Alyssa was saying something to Ryan. I couldn't hear it. Ryan was not smirking. My phone buzzed. A message from Carter's executive assistant, a woman named Diana, who communicated with the compressed efficiency of someone whose time is measured carefully and who extended that efficiency to everyone in her professional vicinity. The guest list for that evening's executive dinner, which was the formal welcome into the firm. I scrolled to the bottom, the last 3 entries, Mr. and Mrs. Dale Brooks, Mr. Ryan and Mrs. Alyssa Phillips. I set the phone face down on my knee. I looked out the window at the city going past. He had not consulted me about the guest list. He had simply, in the way of a man who has been observing situations for long enough to understand their geometry, added the people who needed to be in the room, not to humiliate them. That is not, I think, what it was. It was something more precise than that. A single, deliberate choice that said, you will be in the room where you understand what you chose not to see. Not destruction, clarity. I picked up the phone. I texted Diana, confirmed for tonight, thank you. Then I looked out the window. The penthouse was on the 42nd floor. Arthur Carter's firm maintains it as a transition residence for incoming senior partners during their relocation period. A practical arrangement, Diana explained when she walked me through the building that morning, standard for acquisitions at this level. There was a kitchen, 2 bedrooms, a living area with floor-to-ceiling windows, and a view of the city that I stood at for 4 minutes before I trusted myself to move away from. I put my overnight bag on the bed in the primary bedroom. I looked at it. Worn canvas, rubber corners, the same bag I had packed in my childhood bedroom the previous evening. Sitting on a bed that probably cost more than my first car. I left it there. I would unpack later. The executive dinner that evening was held in a private dining room on the 38th floor. 12 people, the senior partners of Carter Holdings, 2 of their lead investors, the legal team that had managed the acquisition, and at the end of the table, 4 seats that I understood had been added to the arrangement after the initial venue confirmation. My parents arrived first. I watched them from across the room before they saw me. My mother in her good dress, my father in the suit he wears for things he considers significant, both of them carrying embodying the specific attentiveness of people who have been placed in a room they don't fully understand and are working to understand it quickly. My father saw Arthur Carter first. I watched his face process the recognition, the name, the building, the accumulated weight of what Carter Holdings means to anyone in the city. His eyes moved to me. I met them evenly. Alyssa and Ryan arrived 7 minutes later. Ryan had made an effort. He was wearing a jacket that was better than what he usually wore, which told me he had understood the room from the invitation. Alyssa looked at the private dining room, at the table settings, at the people already seated, and then at me. For a moment, one moment, brief and unguarded, something moved across her face that was not her usual register with me. Not condescension, not the management, something more honest than either of those. Then Arthur Carter stood at the head of the table. He is not a man who performs. He says what he means at the volume required to be heard and does not add anything to it. I want to welcome Madison Brooks into the firm, he said. Most people who pitch me have polished presentations and small ideas. Madison had a broken laptop and an idea that made me recalibrate an entire division. We're glad to have her. He picked up his glass. To building things that work. 12 people lifted their glasses. My mother was not looking at her glass. She was looking at me. I held her gaze. I did not look away first. My father found me after dinner, near the windows. He stood beside me and looked at the city for a moment without speaking, the way he does when he is assembling what he wants to say and is not yet ready to say it. Your mother and I, he started. Dad, I said. He stopped. I know, I said. I know what you're going to say. Do you? I thought about it. You're going to say you didn't know, I said. And that's true. You didn't know because you had already decided what I was. And when you've decided what someone is, you stop looking at them carefully enough to see when they become something else. He was quiet for a long time. That's fair, he said, not defensively, just accurately. I know it is, I said. We stood at the window for a while. The garage, he said finally. Dad, I said. The garage was fine. It wasn't. No, I said. It wasn't. But it was one night, and it was the last night I needed to spend there. I looked at the city. I'm not interested in the garage. I'm interested in what comes next. He looked at me. For the first time, and I could not calculate how long, my father looked at me with the specific quality of attention that I had been producing software in a bedroom for 18 months, trying not to need. Just looked. Like he was seeing me carefully. Okay, he said. Okay, I said. Alyssa texted me 3 days later. Not a long text. She is not a long text person. She is precise when she has something real to say and avoids saying things until she has something real. I didn't know. I want you to know that I didn't know what I was doing when I said the garage thing. I know that's not enough. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to say it. I read it twice. Then I wrote back, I know you didn't. Let's get coffee when you're ready. She wrote back. Next week? I wrote back Tuesday. That's where we are. Tuesday. The beginning of something that isn't yet defined and doesn't need to be yet. Arthur Carter and I have a standing meeting on Thursdays at 8:00 a.m. He does not make small talk. He asks questions with the precision of someone who wants accurate answers rather than comfortable ones. He has told me twice, in the 3 months since the acquisition, that I have good instincts and should trust them more than I currently do. I am working on this. The Sustainable Infrastructure Division has 3 new contracts signed since I took the role, 2 more in negotiation. The predictive system is being integrated into 4 buildings in the first phase, with 12 more in the pipeline. It saves money quietly in the dark. Nobody writes headlines about it. That's fine. I know what it does.